So on your view, Lydia, on your view of talking about, of course, food, what is the biggest myth that you find about diet and nutrition that prevents a lot of people from reaching their health goals?
Yes, that's such a good question, Ernest. I find that there may not be a single myth, but it's the confusion in general that I think is generated. Um, and I don't mean to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it really doesn't serve the food industry um, to have everybody eating a healthy diet. I feel like
Yeah.
they
Mm,
um, that this confusion actually, is in their best interests, if
mm,
because nobody knows what to do or where to turn. And
mm,
yes, I find a lot of my patients, they tell me, oh, I've done a lot of research, I've researched this diet and that diet. But then when you
yeah.
start to dig deeper and ask them, well, where did you do your research? And then
Yeah.
it turns out that they actually just are listening to some influencers on YouTube or TikTok, or they have read a bestseller, a book
Mm,
that has been written by a so-called expert. And um, and so that
so,
is their research. And I'm not
mm,
saying that social media is always bad. Of course not. I mean, we
yeah.
get some really great people doing good work with
Mm.
YouTube videos and on Instagram, but it's so difficult to know when you are a layperson, who to listen to, and who's telling the truth and who isn't. It's very, very
Yeah. Yeah.
confusing.
Yeah. Definitely.
I find myself, in the past, I have been led astray
Mm,
by someone who calls themselves an expert, but then
yeah.
when you go back, when you sort of dig deep, then you realize, oh,
Mm,
hang on, that's not quite right. It's
mm,
very, very difficult. So what I try to do is to encourage people to, well, firstly, what I do is I always go back to the original research, and
yeah. Yeah.
I'm just so grateful that I do have a research background. So
Yes.
I because not of course not all research is of good quality. So one
Definitely.
also has to be able to look at that critically.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
and for any health professionals who may be listening, the South African Lifestyle Medicine Association is just starting a journal club, in fact, which
Salma.
is being run by a public health specialist, one of our members, Dr. Mamela.
Mm,
And
mm,
yes, so this is going to be really great for our members, so that we can start to understand how to look at research more
mm,
critically. But anyway, but
mm,
when it goes back to the patient, I try to
mm,
encourage them to uh, either I provide the fact sheets myself, or I try to encourage them to look at reputable sources of information. Um, but it's a
mm.
minefield. Yeah.
Definitely, and especially what I mean, the of course you have this food industry, pharmaceutical industry. Everyone wanted to make sure their products are being bought, and it's said to say even some research, some studies are funded and influenced by those industries, and that's why I believe, like what you just mentioned, to go deep into the study, how the study was conducted. And then
Mm,
not that all the studies that are funded by a certain industry are bad, but you have to
mm,
go and look to see how the study was structured to see if it is really true, and which
mm.
can be, of course, confusing to the patients. But I'm glad you mentioned Salma. Yeah, it's and I believe everyone should actually join Salma, one of the South African Lifestyle Medicine Association, which is especially the research club you said, what do you call it?
Journal club.
Yes, a
Yes,
journal club, and in that
yes.
way you have other health professionals where we're discussing that particular study, and then you can ask questions, and then you can actually see whether this is true or not. And I think that is going to help patients a long way.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I think for health professionals as well, just to be able to find a community of like-minded people that that they can learn from and be inspired by is so helpful. Mm.
Definitely, and that's why, Lydia, I think I'm passionate about this and starting interviewing the lifestyle medicine doctors in South Africa, so that patient can actually and other doctor can actually see actually there is another way of treating patients, and if you can actually go that route, you can really help patients not to chronically manage them, and it can make a difference in their lives as well.
Mm.
Yeah, Lydia,
Absolutely.
if I may go back a little bit, I know it's actually very not a good experience.